Foreign Minister, good to be talking to you.
Thank you for having me, Jim.
Julie Bishop said in your presence that Australia would not use its intelligence assets to harm Indonesia in any way. Do you take that to mean there will be no further espionage from Australian assets in Indonesia, and certainly no more eavesdropping on the President, his wife, or indeed top officials like yourself?
Absolutely. That's how we understand it. This is a very, very important commitment, one that has been made yesterday by Minister Bishop, with whom I had a very constructive and a very productive discussion. It's the same sentiment expressed by the Prime Minister in his letter to our President, and we are keen to be able to manifest this commitment in a more formal and in a more concrete fashion.
Well, I wonder then what you make of a public statement from Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott this morning on radio in Australia this morning that Australia will not stop collecting intelligence on Indonesia, and that they haven't agreed to stop collecting intelligence on Australia, quote unquote.
Yeah. I don't see anything inherently inconsistent with that kind of statement, in the sense that intelligence gathering, the collection of intelligence and information is something that countries do, but it must be done under a cooperative framework. After all, Indonesia and Australia, we actually have we had information and intelligence sharing cooperation, especially within the so-called Lombok Treaty. So if all this is done, being done as part of the formal interagency, interintelligence agency framework, I think that's very much consistent with the spirit and the letter of the kind of approach that we are promoting just now.
So it is the behaviour that you saw revealed as having occurred from the Australian Embassy in Jakarta, and specifically the eavesdropping on mobile telephone calls, that you object to, rather than general intelligence gathering in Indonesia according to the protocols that have been developed by the two countries over the years?
Absolutely. It's the intelligence cooperation between countries, information exchange, intelligence sharing, very, very important and critical even in many instances to be able to address common issues and common challenge. And therefore, formal interagency cooperation is something that we welcome, and that's actually needed. That's why the decision to temporarily suspend such cooperation is taken not without thorough consideration and all that. But what we wouldn't condone would be the type of activities as described in the reports about the extraterritorial unlawful type of intelligence or information gathering, data collection.
And it's your understanding, is it, that Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott has now agreed to stop that?
Yes, most definitely, because the commitment not to undertake any activities that's harmful to Indonesia, that would be including the employment or deployment of intelligence resources, would suggest that such activities would no longer be carried out. But in any case, Jim, it's all about intent, isn't it? I mean, we can talk about the details about who is doing what and all that, but in the final analysis, you know, we have to rebuild the trust, and I believe that process of rebuilding trust is now very much underway. Indonesia, both the government and the people of Indonesia, has a huge reservoir of goodwill for Australia, and we have a real interest in wanting to move forward and strengthen our bilateral relations. And our intent is benign, is peaceful, and friendly, and a strategic partner. And let's ensure that the kind of activities that our intelligence agencies conduct is consistent with that kind of outlook.
In your joint appearance at the Foreign Ministry, the Australian Foreign Minister also said that Australia regretted the hurt caused to the President and the people of Indonesia as a result of the eavesdropping from the Australian Embassy in Jakarta. In your government's view, is that an apology?
It's a very, very important statement that we have taken on board as part of that process of rebuilding our trust and confidence and comfort level. Not only has there been expression of regret vis-a-vis the discomfort or the felt by the President of Indonesia and people of Indonesia, but as well about the incidents leading to the situation where we are in just now. So very, very important statement as part of that process of moving forward. Indonesia and Australia, once again, I have to emphasize, we have many common interests, and we need to be taking a very responsible and measured steps to restore the normalcy in our relations. It's a very important step, first steps towards normalizing our relations, certainly.
Whatever else is suspended at the moment in terms of military and intelligence cooperation, the Australian Prime Minister said today too that he expects cooperation from Indonesia in combating people smuggling, pointing out, for example, that Australia had recently stopped 2 boatloads of asylum seekers from West Papua since the Australian election and at Indonesia's request. If Australia is prepared to do that, shouldn't Indonesia be doing the same vis-a-vis Australian requests?
Look, I'm not going to discuss in this way technical and operational issues of the type that you had raised, but I think the record speaks for itself in terms of past Indonesia-Australia cooperation in foiling people smuggling efforts. We have had in the past coordinated patrol between the two countries that have been very, very important. Those coordinated patrols are now being temporarily suspended, not because of Indonesia's wish in a way. It has been suspended as a result of revelations of those extraterritorial unlawful activities in terms of data collection. So we realize that there is a need for cooperation in dealing with the people smuggling issues, but the reality is the coordinated patrol between the two countries are, as of now, being temporarily suspended.
But do you understand that if asylum seekers from West Papua are a sovereignty question for Indonesia, that it is also a sovereignty issue for Australia, as Mr. Abbott insists?
Well, they are very, very important issues for both countries, but I think it's not directly linked, and I don't think we should be in the business of linking one issue with the other. We have our approaches for different issues and address and manage the issues accordingly. Whatever Australia wish to decide on a situation of this type, we'll listen very carefully, but we are not going to lose sleep over it.
On the intelligence question, a former Indonesian ambassador to Australia, Sabam Siagian, has written that Australian intelligence still has a Cold War mindset of treating everyone as a threat. Is that the problem, that Indonesia sees this eavesdropping on your leaders as a sign that, at least in some intelligence quarters, Australia regards Indonesia as a threat rather than its most important relationship, as leaders from Paul Keating on have insisted?
Well, I've been saying in recent past, that it's all about intent. No doubt countries possess certain capacity, technical capacities to undertake such activities. The question is, would you want to, or is there a need to as well? Now, certainly Indonesia-Australia relations over the recent years have been transformed. We are strategic partners. We are friends, not only bilaterally, we are strong partners in the region. And so in terms of motivation or in terms of intent, I believe there is actually no need for such activities to be conducted in the first place. Now, I guess what one needs to ensure is that there is no gap or lag between what was in the past and what is present in terms of the changes in our bilateral relations, and to ensure that our intelligence agencies are actually keeping track and updated with the transformation that has happened, and therefore avoid similar complications in the future. But it's a very important process, no doubt, but Indonesia have all, it's a fact of life and facts of geography that we are neighbors, and as I said before, Indonesia has the very close sense of friendship and affinity with Australia, and we wish very much to move forward. But the first steps must be taken and are being taken by Australia and by Indonesia in concert.
One final question, and on a very sad subject, Nelson Mandela's death. You have called him a towering figure. What did his extraordinary achievements mean for Indonesia?
Well, I can't imagine any equivalent modern-day 20th century figure as profoundly important, as significant as President Nelson Mandela. Indonesian people, the developing countries, the non-aligned movement, we were all one in fighting and in struggling together to end apartheid, even at the time when it was not a mainstream opposition. There were, not to forget, there were many very influential countries in the past that had opposed sanctions against the then apartheid regime in South Africa. But country like Indonesia, we stood hand in hand and shoulder to shoulder in supporting the apartheid, eradication of apartheid. But beyond apartheid efforts to combat it, President Nelson Mandela reminds us of the importance of reconciliation, and which is again a very important theme for many countries, including Indonesia. So we feel the loss of that's being felt by the people of South Africa, but at the same time we commemorate and celebrate his achievements. I myself, as a student back in the 80s in London, took part in many demonstrations and vigil in front of the South African embassy, calling for the release of then Nelson Mandela. So we feel the loss, but we are at the same time continue to be inspired by his message of peace and harmony and reconciliation.
Foreign Minister, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.